Hello and welcome to Mechwarrioronline. Here I'm going to talk to you about the different types of missile systems that you can use on clan mechs. I will cover innersphere mechs later on, or maybe never at all. Who knows? I have a preference towards the clan mechs, and I'll show you why. Let's take a look at this guy really quick. So for the purpose of demonstrations, I've set this mech down as the way you see it. I have a set of ATM missiles on here, which is the advanced tactical missile, and this particular one fires 6 missiles that have 3 different damage stages depending on distance traveled, and you can see that in the tier below, which is right here. So maximum damage is below 375, probably closer to 350. And that's doing 15 damage. And as it goes out further down the range, you can see that the damage that the weapon does is reduced. This has the furthest reach on clan mechs of any missile system. And as in this case, the unskilled, this one here would do 1100 range, with an optimum of 245. Moving on. Next, we have the streak missiles. Streak missiles are a short-range missile system that have the ability to lock on, just like the advanced tactical missile, and they track the target that has been locked on, and with some degree they will always hit their target. However, if that target goes in behind cover, the missiles will probably end up impacting a structure or whatever's making the cover. This short-range missile, in this case, fires 6 missiles and they track their targets. And it says that they always hit their intended target. However, that is not always the case. But moving on, these ones have a maximum range of 360 and an optimum range of the same. And the reason is because these ones are going to do the same amount of damage as long as they're in their optimum range. Moving on. Similar to the streak missile is the SRM or short range missile system. And in this case, this one fires 6 missiles. These are point and shoot weapons only, which means that they will not track the target whatsoever. Like a laser or a ballistic weapon, they will only fire in the direction that they were pointed and at the range, which in this case, maximum and optimum is 270. So it is shorter than the streak, but it has the ability to be fired regardless. As I mentioned, this one fires 6 missiles. This is the LRM-15, in which also to say is the primary weapon that I use on the Hellfire C. This is available like the other ones in different sizes, and in this particular case, this is a LRM or long-range missile system which fires 15 missiles that will track a target to their destination. What's nice about the long-range missiles, or we'll just call them LRMs from here on out, the LRMs have the ability to go over the top of buildings smoothly, unlike the streak and the ATM missiles do. They are more point and fire direct weapons, and they will follow their target if the target goes around a bend that is a light bend. However, they have a tendency not to travel over the top of large structures as well, and instead end up impacting the structures. The long-range missiles, LRMs, will fire and go up over the top of targets, and in the event that you have players in front of you during a match, they will also go up and over the top of them versus firing your friendlies straight in the back, which is what a streak and an ATM and an SRM missile will do. So be careful when you're firing those types of missile systems. With an LRM, they typically have a tendency to drive, over the top of things and impact the targets primarily. You can also increase the time on target by increasing the sensor range as well. And that'll hold targets for a longer period of time when they go into cover. This one has an optimum and maximum range of 900 on standard, and each missile fired does a damage of 1. So if you fire an LRM-15, it will do, if all 15 missiles hit, it'll do all 15 damage. But as an example, on an ATM-6 as an example, this one, each missile does 2 damage. So if 6 missiles make their target, it does 12 damage. And so on and so forth with these ones as well. This one here will do, well, it looks like it varies. The Streak SRM-6 will do 10.2 damage, which means it's probably about, what is that, 1.5 or something for each damage, or each missile. Whereas on the SRMs, if all 6 missiles hit, that's 12 damage. Let's take this into a match and take a look. I always go.
Target acquired.
So first on the list, we have an ATM. The ATM is locked on and has a optimum range, but it also, like many of the other weapons with the exceptions of the SRMs, has a minimum range as well. So from here, this is going to do damage, and you can tell that the range on this particular one, because I have this mech skilled, is 1265. When I bring this in closer, still doing damage, but let's see. See how it's darkened? Now it's light. At this range, no damage. Here on the other hand, doing damage. Moving on. This is a Streak missile. And this Streak missile will lock onto the target and fire. You can see right off the bat why I'm not a big fan of Streak missiles. Look at the grouping. Once again, hitting a target. It just shoots right into the ground. And as far as I remember, these don't have a minimum range. Let's see. Yep. Here is the SRM, and you can shoot these at point blank or on the maximum range. The disadvantage that these have over the Streaks is that they don't have target locking. So if you have a tag system or a narc and you narc something that can't normally be seen, guess what? You can hit them every time. But if you have an SRM, you can only fire the weapon and it'll go to where you fired it at, where the reticle was pointing. A little bit tighter spread on this as well. Not by a lot. But in my opinion, it is an improvement. But what it doesn't have an improvement on is it doesn't have the ability to fire around targets, like the Streak. Moving on. Here we get to the long-range missile. Now, the long-range missile has a great range, just like the ATM does. And it does fire fairly well. But it also has a minimum range. And as you can see, it's doing damage, but it's not doing, if you look at the top right of the screen, you can see it's not doing very much. Once you get it into optimum range, it's doing more damage. But it's out of optimum. And this missile system will do damage up to point blank range. But the damage that it does is negligible at best. Here's the benefit of an LRM. And I'm going to drop a UAV.
UAV activated.
See that? Firing right over the top of the weapon. Something like this, at this range, it's not going to do a lot. It still has a higher chance. Oh, and it did do some damage. Wait for that thing to go away. It's gone now. See, even after I've lost sight of it, there's still target lock. Also, with these weapons, specifically, you can aim at the target and still do damage, even without the target lock. But you can't do that on the Streak. Listen.
Target acquired.
Only when it has a target lock will it fire. Now, let's try that on the ATM. The ATMs will fire.
Target acquired.
So there's some of the differences between the 4 types of missile systems on clan mechs.
New target acquired.
And of course, the ATM has the best range. The Streak missile is a locking target weapon, and once it does lock target on short range, it's going to virtually hit its target almost every single time, which is a major benefit versus the SRM missile. The LRM-15 is essentially like a longer range version of the Streak, except you can fire this weapon without a target lock, and it has larger range, and it also has the ability to go up and over the targets or structures around it if you have a lock. The ATM does the most damage of these different types of weapon systems, and it also has the largest range of these types of weapon systems. However, it lacks the feature ability of the LRM being able to go up and over the tops of targets. There are many things to consider when you're considering to get your missile system, but these are some of the things you should think about. And in this case here, I'm using the Hellfire C, and this is a lot of fun to play. I'm a big fan of this mech. Hope this was informative, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my product. Bye-bye.